Hey guys, I'm Jessica of Vocal Roots. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to mix it up a little bit, and instead of doing a sewing tutorial, we're going to do a DIY headboard tutorial. That's right, no sewing, but still using fabric. We're going to use some batting, we're going to use some upholstery fabric, we're going to use some MDF board, MDF board, that's right. And then we're also going to use a mattress topper to create our own completely customizable headboard for our bed. I'm going to show you how we prep it, I'm going to show you how we make it, and I'm going to show you how we hang it. So let's get started. I love having a nice cushy headboard that I can lean against when I'm reading a book at night. And it's just nice, especially if you've got kids kind of bouncing around and wrestling around on the bed. If one of them flies off, clunks their head. So it's a nice padded headboard. So to do this, I actually use a giant piece of wood. That's right. This is 3/4 inch MDF board. Now when you go to Lowe's or Home Depot or wherever you go to get your wood, ask them to cut it to size for you. I'm making this for a king size bed, so I have it 6 feet long by 40 inches high. You can see this back piece here. This is the main panel for my bed. These are the extras, but this big piece back here is what I'm working with today. In addition to the MDF board, you're going to need some cushion, right? You can use egg crate, bed toppers, you can use any kind of bed toppers. I got a 3-inch memory foam gel bed topper off of Amazon. It comes like this in the tube all rolled up. And then you're also going to need some quilt batting. Just get the cheapest quilt batting you can find, wherever you can find it. It doesn't have to be fancy. We're not making a quilt out of this stuff, guys. It's just to hold the fabric in place. Speaking of fabric, you're gonna need some upholstery fabric. Do not use quilt cotton on this. You gotta use upholstery fabric. I go to Hobby Lobby, I get whatever's on clearance. This is actually my favorite. It's kind of a metallic look. I mean, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? I love this stuff. All right, so we have our wood, we have our fabric, we have our batting, we have our mattress topper. We just got to get some staples and a staple gun, and then we'll just be able to attach it all together. Before I start wrapping this board with my material and pretty much just finishing this is a super quick project, guys. Before I do that, I'm going to have my husband take a jigsaw and I'm going to have him round out these corners just a little bit. I'm not the biggest fan of the, perfectly rectangular look, so I'm going to round these corners out. If you don't have a jigsaw, if you don't have that equipment, you don't need to do this. You're going to be putting so much extra cushion around these corners here that you're not going to have to worry about this being too, sharp or being unappealing in any way. So to decide how we're going to round these corners, we just use something big and round. So we're going to use this plate here, and we're just going to line it up with the side edge and the top edge, and then just using a pencil, we'll just trace it. And that's going to give Derek the mark he needs to follow with his jigsaw. And if you wanted to use this method to create some sort of a design along the top of the bed, you could do that as well. Just use any object you can find really to trace a nice pattern and just mark it with a pencil. Again, if you don't have a jigsaw or don't want to take the time to do this, this is absolutely not necessary. A rectangular headboard is going to look just as great. All right. While Derek gets the MDF board cut and sanded down, I'm gonna get in here on my sewing room floor and I'm gonna start prepping all my fabric. I'm actually not gonna iron anything because we're gonna be tugging and pulling this so much that it's really not gonna need it. Again, please don't use a quilting cotton for this. Quilting cottons are gonna rip. I'm telling you, they're gonna rip if you try to put them through this. You gotta use upholstery fabric. You can find it pretty inexpensively at craft stores. Look for a clearance. I got mine on a clearance, and it's actually my favorite one out of all of them. It's this exact same fabric I used on my last headboard in my last house. So let's get this prepped. All right, so the first thing I want to lay down is my fabric. This is what I want to be seen, right? This is the last layer I'm going to attach to the board, but it's the first layer I actually want to lay down. So I'm going to take this, and I'm just going to spread it out all over the floor. And you can see when you're using a really nice heavy duty upholstery fabric like this, you really don't have to worry about the wrinkles. It's not, once you pull it nice and taut, this whole thing, any little tiny ripples you can see in it are gonna be totally smoothed out. So this is not a concern. I'm not worried about ironing this or anything like that. Okay, so now the next layer is going to be the quilt batting layer. So first is the fabric layer, then quilt batting, and then we're gonna put the memory foam down. So since this bottom layer is giving me a little bit of trouble when I'm trying to put the batting down, it's kind of moving around a lot, and between me walking on it and then moving the batting around on it and my dogs walking on it and trying to sleep underneath it, I'm actually going to use some of this tape to just tape down the layers so that way they stay in one place while I'm adding the next layer. I'll have a link for this down below. This is actually what I use whenever I'm sandwiching my quilts, and it is the best. You use this tape, nothing's going anywhere, but it also doesn't leave anything sticky, any glue on your floor or your wall or anywhere. And be careful on your wall because it could possibly take the paint off your wall, but it's great on tile floors. Okay, so we just put our quilt padding down. You might be wondering why quilt batting? Well, the quilt batting is actually just going to help make sure that this is nice and smooth. I've used egg crate foam toppers before, and those, you know, kind of have a lot of ridges. So when I use those, I like to just so when I use those, I definitely like to use a couple layers of batting to just smooth it out really nicely. This is already smooth, but it just kind of helps everything just stay in place. This upholstery fabric is a little bit kind of smooth on the back of it, which I think might slide against this a bit. So this batting layer is just going to prevent the fabric from sliding around too much on this. So this is our mattress topper. This is a 3-inch thick mattress topper. It's probably a little bit more than I would normally spend on one of these for a headboard, and I'll have the link below. Let's just try it out and then I'll tell you what my opinion is of it later. So now I'm just gonna lay this down on top of my batting layer, and then I'm gonna go get my board and I'm gonna lay that down on top of everything. Oh, the joys of DIY. When I purchased this mattress topper, I got it off of Amazon. I'll keep the link below if you're interested because it is crazy thick. I mean, this sucker is very, very comfy. But I got a twin size, thinking that twin size bed, 40 inches, that's what I needed. I needed it 40 inches by 6 feet. That'd probably be okay. Not okay. This is 37.5 inches wide by 74 inches long. This is not going to work. So, while it is extremely comfortable and I can see myself using it on an actual bed or for future projects, this is not going to work for my headboard. So I got Derek going out on a Walmart run and we'll see what he brings back. Hopefully something we can use. Yay, DIY. But I still think this is better than buying your own headboard. The headboards are very expensive and they're made very cheaply, and you have no say-so over the type of fabric that is used unless you have a custom headboard made, which then, you know, cha-ching, 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 that's gonna be a lot of money. So let's see what happens. All right, Walmart run complete. He picked up this mattress topper. It's a full size, so hopefully it'll definitely be wide enough. And it's still 3 inches, but it was also $100, which is probably more than I would suggest paying for an inexpensive DIY headboard. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scissors and I'm just going to kind of cut a top line around the edge of my board, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to cut off this extra memory foam because I only want the memory foam to be the same size as my board. Now you could lay this down and then you could trace the whole thing and then take the board up and then go back and cut it. That's another option. I don't really feel like moving this board around because it's really heavy, so I'm just going to try to cut around it while it's laying down. So some tips when cutting this 3-inch memory foam. What I'd like to do first is I like to take this and I like to drag it along the edge and just kind of slice, you know, like 1/4, 1/2 inch thick. And then I go back and then I cut it. I'm using my Kai scissors. These are extremely sharp. They work much better than a box cutter. But honestly, after this, I'm probably gonna have to send them in to get sharpened because I think that this memory foam is starting to dull them a little bit. Make sure when you're cutting, you don't cut your batting or your fabric layers. You only wanna cut the memory foam. So you're gonna have to go really slowly and go gently with this. So see right here, what I did was I just took this and I sliced a line just like that. So you can see I've cut it, but I've just kind of scratched it. I didn't cut it all the way. And then when I go back, so I'm gonna lift this up a little bit and I'm gonna not cut my batting or my fingers and just lift up the memory foam a bit and cut along my punctured line. Slow going. Okay, the hardest part for me is now over. I got all of this excess memory foam trimmed off. So now my memory foam is the same size as my MDF headboard. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull the batting up and I'm gonna just kind of lightly staple this on just to keep it in place. Then I'm gonna take the main fabric and I'm gonna pull it really tight and I'm just gonna go to town with a staple gun because we wanna make sure this stuff does not move around. So pretty quick. I'm gonna tell you the hardest part about this is gonna be hanging it up, but that's Derek's task. So in stapling the batting and the fabric on, each time you're gonna wanna pull up the part that's on the middle of the board, staple that down first, pull up the part that's on the side of the board, staple that down, and then go to the corners. We do sides first, and then we do corners last. All right, so we stapled the batting on, and I used quite a few staples, but this is nothing compared to what I'm gonna do when I'm done with the fabric. At this point, we can see the complete size of our headboard as it is on our fabric. So you can see I have a lot of extra fabric over here, but then not a whole lot over here. So this is a really good time to step back and figure out if you need to reposition your board in any way. This is gonna be an easier time to just kind of push it from one side to the other. So I'm gonna probably push my board to the left a little bit and maybe down a little bit because I do have quite a bit of extra fabric over here. So I'm gonna staple all this down and I'm gonna staple it probably about 2 inches, 2.5 to 3 inches away from the edge. So this is how I do the rounded corners. I take it all the way to where it's flat right here and I pull it nice and tight and then I staple it. And then I pull it a little bit, staple that down. And I'm gonna pull it a little bit more. Again, because the goal is to get a nice rounded corner without a lot of bumps. giant headboard is done. Yeah. This is some of my favorite fabric. I mean, this is just, things photograph so nice in front of it. The video is nice. And it's so comfy. I mean, it's got a mattress topper on it. It's super comfy. So this sucker has been stapled. It has its mattress topper, it has its batting, and it has its fabric on it. The next step is going to be actually hanging it up on the wall, which is a little tricky. So first we have to find the studs on the wall. We have to measure where they are, and then we're going to measure those on our board. And then we're going to attach some D-rings and some screws and hang it up. It's a lot easier said than done, honestly. This is probably the part that my husband hates the most. And this sucker is heavy, so I will be helping. Don't you worry. Don't you think he's in this on his own. But yeah, this is, I mean, I love doing upholstery projects because it's nice to just not have to sew. And upholstery projects are sloppy. You just pull the fabric and just staple, 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 staple like crazy on the back. And on the front, it looks great. Nobody looks at the back. Don't look at the back. The front looks amazing though. So it's nice to take a break sometimes from the sewing, you know, which is very precise, and your scant 1/4-inch seam allowance and all that jazz. It just kind of makes it time consuming and difficult. This is a really awesome, huge, quick finish, and it's very satisfying. So let's get this sucker out of my sewing room and let's get it in the bedroom. So thanks so much for sticking around for the tutorial. I hope that this just shows you that where there is a will, there is a way. There are some projects that I feel like there's no way I can do that myself. I'm gonna have to buy something, even if I think it's too much money and I don't find anything I really like. This is one of those projects you can definitely do yourself. It doesn't cost a whole lot of money, it takes very little time, very little energy, there's no sewing involved, and you can make it completely your own. I mean, the sky is the limit when it comes to what kind of fabric you can use on these headboards. So I'll put my total cost for my headboard right here. Don't forget, I spent way too much on a mattress pad. Now, I love this mattress pad. That headboard is so plush and so comfy. But if I was trying to make an inexpensive headboard, I wouldn't use that one again. I don't really think it's that big of a difference to use maybe an egg crate mattress pad instead. So if you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can keep up with all of the tutorials that I come out with. I got lots and lots of ideas up here of things I really want to share with you. Please give this video a like if you found it useful. Make sure to comment any questions or opinions or anything like that you have down below. Once again, thanks so much for sticking around. I hope we see each other again soon. Get out there and make something. Bye!